This is Adam Watson.
And Elias Spainhower.
You're listening to the Darkslinger Mafia podcast. So this may be a shorter podcast than normal because we just got back from Comic Fest 2018 at the Hillsboro Public Library. And it was a fantastic show. The I Like Comic Con was a huge disappointment, but this one's made up for it.
Yeah.
I didn't quite make back all the money that I lost at that show, but came pretty goddamn close.
Yeah.
And it was just excellent. Like, there were more kids at this show than I think I've seen at every single show combined that I did last year. And there were more people that came up to me stating that they were buying a comic for the first time than I think I've ever heard at any show I've ever done. And that's an awesome thing to hear when you're a comic creator.
Oh, yeah. And I think it being at a public library definitely helped with that, too.
Oh, I think that being at the public library is a reason for it.
Yeah. It's because people will just be like, I'm returning books. And
right.
They're like, wait, there's a comic thing here? Well, let's go check it out.
Yeah.
And then...
yeah, they had the signs pointing the way for the Comic Fest upstairs, and people would just come up to see what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were people who came there, it seemed, just to be at the Comic-Con.
Mm-hmm.
But there were a lot of people who just happened to be at the library that day.
Yeah.
And
so, even a lot of the people at the library were like, all of a sudden a panel would start and they would like literally just go sit down and be like, oh, this is kind of cool.
Right. Yeah.
I'm learning stuff.
They were volunteers, so why not?
Yeah.
The biggest takeaway from this is that we need to do more library shows.
Get the word out.
Yeah, so I was already invited to do the author days at their library, which is not comic specific, but as a comic author,
yeah,
I'm more than welcome to go set up. And I'm definitely planning on doing that as long as it doesn't conflict with another show I have going on, but I don't believe it will.
Yeah, if it does, you can always just send me off with a few long boxes
right.
of some Darkslinger stuff, and I can go to the con while you hit up that.
And I know most libraries do author days, at the very least, for their local authors. So I'm thinking I'm going to go around and hit up all the libraries that are in the Clackamas County District and ask them when they have theirs. Yeah. And see if I can get signed on for as many of them as possible.
Exactly.
But I've been wanting to do a library-based show for quite some time. I actually tried to start one up with Oregon City Library last year. They never got back to me. Oh. I know, it's too bad.
Right.
I've been wanting to do one for quite some time because, I knew they were something good. There's just something about it that I knew was going to work. And I'm glad to see that I was totally right in that. So I think we made more money at this show than we did on any show we did last year.
Yeah.
The only exception might be Wenatchee. We might
But that was a one-day show in our...
That was a one-day show. We made more money over the weekend than we did, for sure. But Wenatchee might have been a better single day.
Yeah.
Possibly. When you add in the expenses, though, this was definitely more of a profitable show.
Oh, yeah. Well, and didn't we have long boxes at that show?
We did have long boxes
and
at that show.
This
was strictly Darkslinger. And so we definitely sold more Darkslinger product than we have at any other show for about a year. I'm now out of Chronicles of Von Helsing number 3, so I got to go back to print on that. And I'm almost out of print on Chronicles of Von Helsing number 2.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so before I do any other shows that are Darkslinger specific, I really need to get those 2 issues back into print.
And also, aren't your glasses getting low, too?
The shot glasses, I'm not sure what we have at the liquor store because I could pull some that are unsold inventory from the liquor store. But I have, in my possession at the moment, I have 5 shot glasses. And I think of the Chronicles of Von Helsing pint glass, I am down to somewhere in between 18 to 20. Yeah. I've almost sold out all those, and I ordered 200 of the Darkslinger or of the Chronicles Von Helsing pint glass to begin with.
Oh wow!
So I've moved a considerable amount of those for an independent comic company.
Oh yeah.
What were your thoughts on the show?
I enjoyed it. I was only there for one day, sadly, but
yeah, Robert was my helper on the other day.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought the panels were pretty cool, just being able to be in the same room as it's going on. Like, but no, I loved it. Tons of people coming up with questions like, where are the artists from? Is the writer local? And just, I think a lot of them seem like first timers, even if they didn't say it. Like,
right. And that was another thing that you kind of just touched on right there. More people at this show than any other one I have ever been to asked me if I was a writer. So I always get asked constantly at Comic-Cons if I'm the artist on the books. it's a constant question. Every writer gets asked, you know, are you the artist on these? Are you the artist on these? Are you the artist on these? You know, people want to meet the artist so they can get drawings, they can get stuff like that. But at this show, it was constant, are you the writer on these? And that was an awesome thing to hear, because that's not something you hear when you're at comic cons or comic shops doing signings. So to hear it at the makes sense, because, you know, you're going to think that people at the library are probably more likely than not readers, so it's authors they want to meet.
Exactly. I was just going to say that.
Yeah, it was an awesome experience. Thank you very much to the Hillsboro Public Library for hosting us, and I can't wait to do it again. And I'm going to be looking for more library conventions to appear at.
And they had accommodations. I thought that was cool.
They did. They had awesome accommodations. I think the only time I've ever been treated so well while doing any sort of signing or convention or anything like that, Crypticon and signings at Cosmic Monkey. So when you sign a Cosmic Monkey, they're always really kind about providing you with food, you know, making sure you're as comfortable as can be. They provide you with water. They do all that. You know, they go above and beyond. In Crypticon, Sunday morning, they will around a donut cart and hand them out to all the vendors.
Nice.
In the evenings, after the show closes, they have burlesque that's free to get into if you're a vendor. Oh, nice. They have a party that's called Biohazard that you pay $1 a drink. And, you know, it's well drinks, but who cares, right? Yeah. Because it's $1 a piece. And
it's been a long day.
Right. And they have, like, movies. They have a movie festival going on. All that stuff is free to get into if you're a vendor.
That's awesome.
So, Crypticon treats its guests, right? And, like, Crypticon is the only show I think I've ever been to where I've actually seen the minions run out to get food for the vendors. So I didn't even know that
not
was
your
something.
Personal minions, but
no, not my personal minions. Of course, my personal minions do it, but I always have a personal minion to do that for me, right?
Exactly. Not everybody's so lucky.
A couple years ago, Alan, Bennett, George, Leone, and I all had gone up to Crypticon together, and Alan was getting pretty hungry, and he's talking to one of the minions, and the guy's like, you know, is there anything I can do for you? Anything I can help out with? And he's like, well, I mean, maybe you could watch my table long enough for me to go get a Subway sandwich. And the guy's like, I'll go get you the Subway sandwich if you don't want to leave your table. Really? Yeah, the guy ran, got him the sandwich, got him exactly what he had asked for, and it was like above and beyond what I've ever seen any minions do. So, you know, Crypticon is excellent about taking care of anybody who vends there. The Hillsboro Library, you know, they did it up well.
Yeah, they had a huge spread of amazing sandwiches.
Yeah,
they
gave
bars,
us really good
chips.
food and asked us dozens of times if there was anything we needed, and
didn't have to pay for parking.
No, I didn't have to pay for parking. Their volunteers there asked me, I can't even count how many times, if there was anything they could give me.
Oh yeah,
and they were just so good, so accommodating. You know, anything you needed. You need a piece of scratch paper, they'll grab it for you. You need to know this, what you're doing next, they're going to tell you. You know. So,
is our coffee people out of change? Go ask the library staff.
Right. So this is the first podcast that we're doing since the Ghost Assassin Kickstarter funded. Woo! So not only did it fund, but it overfunded.
I saw that. That was amazing. I was so happy.
Yeah, I was too. It was 17 hours to go, I think, when the pledge was made that put it to goal. Nice. So it was a stressful 17 hours remaining because, you know, it was like hit the goal and then $100 pledge comes in, right? And then $100 pledge that was made previously gets reduced. And it's like, oh, okay, well, I kind of knew that one was going to happen because I had already had pre-warning that it might, right? So it was like, okay, that's no big deal. A $50, I think, pledge comes in, and then a $21 pledge. And then I lose $1 backer. And honestly, when I lost the $1 backer after getting those other pledges, I just laughed. I'm like, okay, I would prefer to keep you as a backer, but if you really have to cancel your $1 pledge, it just seems funny at this point because it's like for every 10 backers you gain, you lose one, and you never know why. And so,
but for him to be $1 backer, that's definitely a lot better,
right? Because when I saw the message and it's like, you know, name has canceled their pledge, I'm like, oh God, please tell me it's not one of the $100 or $200 backers. Nope, it's $1 backer. So that just made me laugh. Not in a way that, ha ha ha, I lost
No.
a backer. Of course not that
No.
way. I didn't want to lose any backers.
It was more like those like moments.
But the
where
absurdity
you're like,
of the
oh crap,
yeah.
and then you just kind of have the giggles afterwards. You're like, oh thank God.
Yeah, because there for a minute I was like, oh please tell me I'm still funded. Please tell me I'm still funded. Oh okay, it was just $1. So then I gain another couple of $25 tier backers, I think. And then I lose like a $10 backer. And
it's so weird.
It happens with Kickstarter.
Especially right when it's right in those last hours, because that's when people are like, okay, this is the crunch
thing
time.
that I just wish is that Kickstarter would institute something like eBay has. eBay, you can cancel your order within X amount of time, right? Mm-hmm. But there's like 4 different little boxes that you can check that let the seller know why the item's being canceled. I would just like to know why the funds or why the backing is being canceled. Is it something I did? Is it something I said? Right. Do you simply change your mind, or maybe you don't have the money you thought you were going to have? I can understand that one being embarrassing to say. So I understand like having a box that just says other. Yeah. One of the guys, he had pledged $135 with 3 days to go, right? Mm-hmm. And had taken the percentage I needed down. And he messaged me and said he really liked the idea of a metal print and was wondering if I was going to add any original art or anything like that, right? So I gave him the option. I was like, okay, this. I was thinking about adding this, and I had talked to Joel and found out about, if I could add the cover art to it, that kind of stuff. So I added all that. I'd let him know, hey, I've added this on. You can switch your pledge for this if you like. And he cancels his pledge. Doesn't send anything back. So I sent him a message and I just said, hey, I was just curious. Did I misunderstand? Were you hoping that I was going to give you original art instead of a metal print? Well, yes, that's what it turned out to be. Oh. Here's the thing, though. I could get away with doing a metal print tier for $100. It includes a metal print, a t-shirt, 3 limited edition comics, and Ghost Assassin #1, physically printed in the digital edition, right? Mm-hmm. My profit margin is such on that I can afford to do that and be funding the print run. Mm-hmm. The throwing original art into that ups it considerably. I can't swap out a metal print, the value of which is about $50, for a piece of original art. I can't do it. Yeah. So, I found that one kind of ludicrous in a lot of ways because he expected me to swap it for something I haven't even offered yet, and without ever even asking me before he pledged.
Well, not only that, but by original art, he means nothing in any of the stuff, or
no, he meant that stuff with the exception of original art instead of the metal print. So he still wanted all the other stuff. Okay, but instead of metal print, he wanted me to give him original art. Oh, which there was no way I could do, but I just found it so absurd that he would pledge thinking I was going to do that without ever even sending me an email asking me if that's something I would do. Yeah. So, he took the funding up and then immediately kicked it back down. Yeah. Without ever even sending an email to see if that would... Place. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but in any case, it's fully funded. I should have the funds within 2 weeks, and then Ghost Assassin issue #1 is off to the printers. Woo! And all of the other items like the metal print, the t-shirt, it's all ready to go.
For the dollar backers, what would they get? I forgot because I just skipped right past that one.
The dollar tier, if they were an early bird backer, if they backed in the first day, they could back at $1 for a PDF.
Oh, nice.
So after the first day, it went up to $2.
Oh, but most of the time it's just like a thank you letter or something. Right. Yeah. But I think even the guy who backed out $1, you should send him a thank you for trying. Type deal. Yeah. So it's like, I should. You still get your thank you letter, even though something happened you couldn't make it. But I definitely think that you're right. They should at least throw some sort of, when you unback something, like you can leave a comment, or you can just be.
Well, at least give the option to leave a comment. Yeah. Even if they don't want to, for whatever reason,
they can skip it.
Just the option, so that people are at least encouraged to let you know why they're canceling their pledge. Because otherwise, as a Kickstarter creator, you're just left scratching your head wondering if you did something wrong. Right. So it's pretty exciting, and I have enough money to get started, at least, on the coloring of issue #2.
Right on.
So in other news, Bovine Muerte issue number 4 started this week.
Oh, I'm super stoked. I keep seeing it pop up, and I'm like, I don't want to look at it because I just want to see it all together.
Oh, you want to read it when you get the option to read it all at once?
Yeah. Sometimes I hate spoilers.
That's interesting.
I don't know. I mean, I still end up reading them and looking at it. It's just like I go to scroll past it, and I'm like, wait, I have to like it. Okay, what is he saying?
I can understand why you would do that, though.
Oh yeah, I'm so close to it. I'm just like, nope. I want to wait. I want to be surprised. But yeah.
So the first page posted this week, and second page will be posting this Wednesday, and we're on track to just keep going from there.
That's awesome.
Gabriel sent me some prelims for covers today. They look amazing. So I can't wait to have that. I know I'm doing it kind of in reverse. I posted the first page before the cover. But since it's a webcomic, it's okay because I'll just do like a special Tuesday update that has a cover and a Wednesday update that's a regular page, you know.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But no, that's one thing that I think we should say. I mean, if we had more paper El Bovine Muertes, I can say not maybe mentioning it as much, but I just... The fact that it's a webcomic and you can just go check it out. And
yeah, what you're referencing is the fact that I keep forgetting to mention the fact that El Bovine Muerte is a webcomic when people come up to look at the physically printed edition.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I need to. What I actually need to do is,
once you read
years and years and years ago, I printed up about 200 postcards and took them to Emerald City Comic Con and gave away every single one of them. Mm-hmm. And there were actually several people who right there and while they were standing in front of me, pulled it up on their phone and started reading it right there. And so I know the postcards will work to at least get people to check it out. I don't know if it'll be enough to keep them continuously reading it. But, you know, even if you get 1 out of 50 people, you know, that's what marketing's about. So
exactly.
I hear other comic creators won't do things like postcards because they get discouraged that, you know, they don't immediately get results off them. But the reality is like, when Chevy is advertising their new Tahoe, 5,000 people who see the ad are not going to buy it? It's that 5,001 who does, right?
Exactly.
So, as a creator with a very small budget, I have to do the things that are going to bring me the best ROI. But on the other hand, if I don't bring these things back into print and experiment around with them, then, you know, the ROI is never going to exist.
Yeah, if you can't get it out there. And even if it's in someone's hand, they're like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about this really cool card."
Right.
And like, usually when they're right there, they like in front of the table, like depending on if people are coming in, and even if not, like they'll look at the card, but they'll just kind of give it a glance. Like they don't really like look at it until they open up their goodie bag after they got everything after the day and actually sit down and start looking at it.
Yeah, and you know one thing I'm notorious for is, you know, I get a lot of promos at cons, and I don't very often get them when I'm walking around, because I don't want to carry things around. What happens, I'll just be at my table and people will start randomly bringing their promos up to me. And so what I do is I always just take a brief look at it and then stick it in one of my boxes. And so when I get ready for the next show, I'm cleaning out my box and making sure I have everything in there I need. And I come across all the promo items I've got. So if somebody is doing a Kickstarter or something like that and I'm not doing a show for a while, it's probably not best that they give me their little promo item because I'm probably not going to see it until after it's over.
True.
But if it's something like a webcomic or a comic that they're promoting and they give that to me, I'll take a look at it. And if like what I see, you know, I'm likely to go online at that point and research it out. So handing out promo items isn't always a guarantee that it's going to be an immediate thing. It might be a month from now or a year from now thing, because I know several comic creators who do that same sort of thing, you know?
Oh, yeah. But like, even just like, someone bringing up, mentioning about their Kickstarter and stuff, giving them one of your cards, because they usually take one too. Just be like, yeah, no, I backed a Kickstarter, like, you can send me an email and blah, 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 and like, just the whole Kickstarter community thing again, just talk to each other about it.
Right.
But yeah, definitely after a con, it's just like, after working a con, it's just like, okay, we're done lugging boxes, we got everything back inside. I'm just going to sit.
Right? Yeah, no kidding. It is tiring doing shows. And we have another one coming up in 2 weeks, I believe.
Yeah. Frankenstein.
Yep. Yeah, my math's right on that, right? That's 2 weeks. Yeah, it's 2 weeks from now.
Sweet.
So going to be at the Frankenstein comic book swap happening in Portland, Oregon. Which if you are in the Portland area, come to this show if you like to buy cheap comics and find stuff you're probably not going to find anywhere else.
Yeah.
I found a number of things that I've been looking for years at this show and paid hardly anything for them.
I think this is the first time I've been to a Frankenstein.
Oh, that's just a Frankenstein.
Well, that's not at that Red Lion Inn place.
Right.
This is somewhere else?
This is the normal show. So they only switch locations in the summertime. Otherwise, it happens at the... I can never remember if it's an Elks Lodge or an Eagles Lodge. Okay. But it's at a lodge in any case. So nice. This is... The one that you went to was Frankenstein / Vancouver Toy Junkies.
Didn't Frankenstein do one there by themselves too?
No, that was the Frankenstein / Vancouver Toy Junkies. So the other one we went to was actually just Vancouver Toy Junkies.
Oh, gotcha. That makes sense. So
the Vancouver Toy Junkies show often has comics at it too. I could see where it didn't really seem that much different adding Frankenstein into it. Yeah. Because the same sort of stuff was there realistically as what's there because, there's few people at Frankenstein who bring toys and there are people at the Vancouver Toy Junkies who brings comics. Exactly. So, I'm majorly looking forward to that. I'm going to be on the hunt for cheap comic review magazines like Comic Book Journal, or not review magazines, interview magazines like Comic Journal and anything Tomorrow's Press has published and Comic Interview that I still need. I have almost all those.
It's your creator's crack.
It's my creator's crack. Yeah, I'm going to be on the lookout for those. I'm going to be look out for the one and only Scud issue that I don't have. That thing still eludes me, but I swear I'm going to find it, and I don't want to buy it on eBay. I want to buy it at a con.
It's more special that way.
It kind of is when you've had to search and hunt for something, but it's also like this. So Elementals, if I bought as a complete run on eBay, would cost me like $150 at least, right? Oh, wow. And over the course of just last year, because that's all the time I've been hunting for the series, right?
I even helped you hunt for it.
Yeah. I've actually bought multiples of the issues because I've never bothered to write down what I found and what I haven't. So I think I have bought around 100, right? Which there's not even 100 of those made, which just goes to show how many duplicates I bought. But the most expensive one I have purchased thus far has been 50 cents. I have paid 25 to 50 cents on every single one I have bought. And I have all but I think 18 of them now. Nice. And I will probably find those 18 this year. And this is all the money I've spent on them. If I was searching on eBay, yeah, I could get them right away. But I'd also be paying a premium for getting them right away. Well, you wouldn't. And I like the search. Yeah. I think it's fun to search through long boxes. And, you know. Yeah. And I know, like, Alex and Robert, when they go to shows with me, they cannot stand to go through boxes that aren't organized. But it's kind of like this. Who do you think organizes all those boxes that I buy? You think that they come to me that way, or you think I do that? Well, right. I don't mind hunting through boxes that aren't organized. Right. It doesn't bother me at all.
Who knows? They might even get slightly more organized as he goes through them.
That has happened before when I've been bored at a show.
But no, I do like the in the order ones, but most of the time I don't even know what I'm looking for. So right. The chaos, bring it on.
So yeah, the next show we'll be doing is going to have a small section of Darkslinger stuff on it. It's going to be primarily long boxes and trade paperbacks and complete sets. But I'm hoping that after that, maybe because Ghost Assassin issue #1 is coming out, maybe I can set up a mini signing tour in the Portland-Salem area.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. There are other shows that I, of course, want to do as well. But it would be very nice if I could set up a little signing tour and just hit up a bunch of the comic shops. And maybe even some of the local bookstores.
Oh, yeah. Maybe a couple of libraries with their writers' things, too.
Yeah. Well, the Malala Library has actually told me that they'd host me for a autograph session whenever I wanted. Nice. So they might be willing to do that stuff just outside of the norm.
And if you can get a couple creators in there too, we might be able to actually bring in more people.
And then, have a mini event.
Yeah, yeah. Then tell OC how good how awesome it was, and
right.
Then We can just move our way up.
Just kind of work the way up.
Up to Portland, yeah.
Start with the single level libraries and move up to the dual level libraries.
Well, we just had a 3-story
and then maybe sooner or later we can hit up the one in downtown Portland that's like 5 stories or whatever it is. I've been there since I was a kid, so it's probably not as tall as I remember, but
it seemed like it.
It is a massive one, the Multnomah County Library. Have you ever been there?
I don't think so. No.
It's a very big library.
Nice.
But it's probably nowhere near as big as I remember it being, though. It seemed like a movie library when I was a little kid, you know? Like, oh my god, this place has every book ever been published. Not really, but...
Do they have the little wheelie stairs, too?
The wheelie stairs?
Like the little ladders on tracks.
Oh, I think they did, but I might just be putting that into my memory because
of how big it was.
There. Yeah.
Definitely.
So yeah, in any case, I thought it was great. I thought the panels were good. I enjoyed the panel I was on.
I enjoyed the panel you were on too. I was just going to mention a different one without even saying that. But
which one?
I can't remember what it's called.
Comic Book Legal Defense Fund?
Yes.
Yes, that was a very, very good panel.
Very informative.
The guy who was running that did an excellent job.
Yes.
I really enjoyed hearing him. The Comic Book Legal Defense Fund is an awesome organization, so I think more people need to find out about that.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask how people can find out to support because it was one thing he hadn't mentioned, but then one of the audience members asked it, so I was glad to hear that.
Nice.
Yeah, and I was able to give Alterna a quick little plug yesterday because I fully believe in what they're doing with bringing the newsprint back for a cheap price for kids to buy. During the keynote yesterday, which was a very good keynote address, it was by, I can't think of his name. He's the co-creator of iZombie, not Mike Allred, Chris. In any case, he was doing the keynote yesterday. It was very good, very informative. He was talking briefly about Newsstand and how all the companies had left it. And he had mentioned that he thought Archie was the only company left that still did Newsstand. So I screamed out, Alterna! And he's like, what? And I said, Alterna Comics still does Newsstand distribution. So everybody in the audience kind of turned around and looked at me. So
you get shouting from the very back of the
right?
room. Kind of like I did during your...
Yeah, like you did during mine. So I was able to give them a quick plug for their Newsstand option. So I was glad to be able to do that. And I think after he was done, and, I didn't want to shout again during his presentation. That would have been very rude. But after he was done, I sat and thought, I think Bongo is actually still on newsstands too. Bongo does The Simpsons and Futurama comics. Oh. I don't know if they do anything that's not related to Matt Groening. Mm. I don't know if Matt Groening owns the company or what, but they started with The Simpsons, I know that. And they did a comic back in the day called Roswell that was cartoony, and I don't think Matt Groening was related to that one. But primarily what they publish has always been Simpsons, Futurama, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I believe they're still on the newsstand. I'm pretty positive in any case.
But yeah, that's something I'd never really had a chance to experience. Like the way you were explaining it to me. Like,
yeah, and that's just a sad thing to me.
Yeah. Like it just went the way of the dodo, being able to just...
Well, basically, the companies couldn't even see it as a loss leader, Yeah. I understand maybe Marvel and DC quit making money off it, but I would have never, had I been in their position, pulled all my books from the newsstand, because they should have always had at least a few of the stuff that would draw on kids the most.
Oh, yeah.
Like, give them Spider-Man, give them stuff like that,
Oh, yeah,
but
for sure.
They also started making their books inaccessible for children. So,
even in the stores, like...
Yeah, I was in Fred Meyer's years back, around the time that one of the Spider-Man movies that came out, right? And there was a little boy who's probably 8 in there with his mom, right? And she was looking at magazines, and he asked if he could get a Spider-Man comic. And she looked down and goes, "Oh, they don't make those anymore." And I was like, comics are still made.
Right. No.
And she's like, "Oh, okay, well, do they still make Spider-Man?" And I said, yes. And then I thought about it for a minute, and I go, but be careful about buying them for him. And she's like, "Really?" She said, yeah, and she didn't really ask for any information, so I didn't give her any.
Yeah.
But the reason I had said that is because on the one hand, that was around the time the Ultimate Spider-Man was still a new title, and it was still a perfectly reasonable title for an 8-year-old to get at that time. I don't know if it went darker later on or not. I didn't read it much past like issue number 50 or something. But it was also around the time that a series called Spider-Man Reign was released, right?
Sounds more
and I did not want this kid to inadvertently end up with this comic, because this comic was about an old, aging, basically pathetic version of Spider-Man who had killed Mary Jane with his radioactive sperm. He had given her like ovarian cancer or something like that she had died from. I don't remember the exact type, but he had given her some sort of cancer, basically like a radioactive sexually transmitted disease. Doc Ock had been long dead and was just like a skeleton being carried around by his mechanical arms that were still alive.
Holy crap.
Like, it was brutally dark for a Spider-Man comic.
Yeah.
And so, knowing that this
quippy
thing...
jokes there.
Right? No, none at all. There was, like, no humor. I read the first issue and was like, this isn't a Spider-Man that I want to read about.
Right.
So, knowing that this thing existed, I didn't even want to tell this mom that, you know. So, I think that the problem was multifold. You know, on the one hand, it was that they pulled these books away from the market that would get them naturally found. But on the other hand, they were catering to what people made jokes about seeing about their characters, right? Like, you make all kinds of jokes about that kind of stuff, but it doesn't, you know, it doesn't mean you actually want to read a comic that has Spider-Man killing Mary Jane with radioactive semen.
Yeah, no.
You know, Spider-Man's not that character. You don't need to do that. If you were going to do it in a comic that was made for adults from the beginning, have at it.
Yeah.
Go for it. But this was Spider-Man.
Right.
So, you know, I always thought that was in very poor taste.
Well, and what you mean by the newsstand is not obviously by the check stands where the Enquirer is, but the big magazines.
Well, that would technically be newsstand, too. They're both newsstand.
I know, but like the big magazine section that's like insane to try even look through, because it's just like there's no order or rhyme or reason to it.
Both are newsstand distribution. Back during the original days of distribution, it was all called newsstand because it was done by newsstand agents who were carrying magazines and things of that nature in addition to the newspapers. And so anything that was carried in the store was called that. And then flash forward a few years, and some of the companies bought premium placement up by the check stand, so they'd be put there instead of in the magazine department.
Yeah.
So that's where your Time Life, your Cosmopolitan, your Rolling Stone, and your Archie Digest would be.
And Enquirer.
And Worldwide News.
Yeah. See, I'd rather read comics than those things. Like, they're fun to glance at the covers as you walk by. You'd be like, and then just keep walking.
The Worldwide News, from what I understand, actually had a number of comic creators working on it at one point in time.
Huh. I did not know that.
That's what I hear. I haven't done much research into that yet, though.
But, like, if you look at the magazine section, they're all full-size magazines. There's no real... Like, if you were to put a small comic-sized comic down there, I mean, other than, like, a trade paperback, you wouldn't even be able to see it. Like,
yeah, because of the lack of organization, you mean?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just...
Yeah, well...
Even if they're all
used
in
to
the
be
bottom,
quite common for them to either have their own complete section or for a side display or a spinner rack.
Yeah.
So spinner racks are what a lot of people remember the most. And you know what a spinner rack is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
it's a Pokemon.
So, so the side display is basically like, you know, when you're in the magazine section and you see the rack hanging to this, like the right or left side of the magazines that has paperback books in it. Mm-hmm. So when I was a kid, those racks weren't paperback books. Those were comic racks. Yeah. And so the comics were separated, and it was really nice and easy to thumb through. Mm-hmm. And because it was primarily people reading comics, you know, the stuff up top that was like the X-Men and things like that, you could always find a copy that wasn't too damaged or wasn't damaged at all. So, you know, you could buy something that was still in collectible grade, which was always nice. Mm-hmm. And then, like at Century, and you remember Century and Malala?
Yeah. Okay,
at Century, in the magazine sections, there was one section that was just comics.
That's awesome.
And that's all it was. And, that was great when I was like 13 because I'd go buck hay all day, do roofing, get, a couple $100 in cash, whatever. I'm a 13-year-old kid. I'd walk over to the grocery store and buy every single X-Men comic that came out that month and then spend the next day, or whatever day I wasn't bucking hay, reading all day, right? It's like, oh my God, I just bought every X-Men comic, right?
Amazing.
Right? And so, it was fantastic back then. Thank God for the libraries carrying comics because that's been one of the easiest ways for me to introduce my kids to them on a shoestring budget,
Oh, yeah. Well, not only that, but, like, not having to, like I was saying earlier, get in your car, go find a comic shop nearby.
Right.
Like, no, your local libraries have them.
Right.
And if you want to get back into them and find things you might want to buy at a con.
Yeah.
Like, it's the easiest way of doing so.
And I think one of the things that I just kind of got the biggest kick out of doing this library con is yesterday we hit a certain period and there was a panel going that I wasn't particularly interested in the panel. Wasn't that they were doing a bad job, it just wasn't one that I had an interest in the information being given. I kind of knew we were in a dead zone, because nobody knew was coming in. It was getting close to the end of the day. It kind of seemed like the main library patrons were kind of thinning out, right? So I just wandered off, left Robert there for a moment, asked them where their graphic novel section was. They pointed me to it. I go there.
They had signs pointed all the way there.
Well, I eventually saw the signs when I kept walking.
Yeah.
I walked over there and picked out Ferris Volume 3 because I hadn't read it yet. Took it back to my table, and that's what I did for the rest of the day. And then today, during the slow period, I went and picked up Volume 4, gave that a read, and it was great. I mean, I can sit there and at a Comic-Con, I can read something without paying for it. Like, that's fantastic.
Or pissing someone off by walking up to the table, pulling up a chair and just crack open one and just start. What are you doing? Hold on, I want to know if I like this or not. I'm not done yet. All right, I like it.
You won't get people who do basically that, but
the slow thumb. I must see every page. Just get a quick read. What are you, Superman?
When Robert and I were at that little teeny tiny show that only had 5 vendors last year.
Oh yeah.
There was a guy who came up to our table. Who the way the tables were, I couldn't see my boxes down below, right? And I'd stood up to go to the bathroom. And I walked in front of the table, and he had 4 of my long boxes around him in a semicircle with like 10 comics pulled out of each box, and he was sitting there reading them.
He makes like his little feng shui circle. He's like,
yes.
No one can disturb me.
I'm just kind of like, what do I even do here?
Right?
Do I ask him to put them back because he's clearly not buying them? Or... I'm not sure. I really don't. I'm confused.
What was it, Robert or Alex?
It was Robert with me.
Robert, deal with this until I come back.
Right? Yeah. But, yeah, this was an excellent show. Definitely looking forward to finding some more library shows.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a good year, I think.
Yeah.
It's off to a good start. Kickstarter funded. Bovine Muerte is up and running. It's actually been up and running at this point because with the Valentine's Day image and the Forgo Assassin pages, this is actually the 6th week of consecutive updates. So I can safely say it's,
oh yeah,
it's going again.
It's going. Well, and to do it and still doing it during your Kickstarter too. Like,
yes,
that's kicking ass and taking names.
Yeah. Yeah. And the Kickstarter was super stressful. But it's fully funded now, and now I just have to get all the incentives done and get them out to everybody.
Yeah.
And I look forward to everybody having them.
I am too. I can't wait.
Yeah, I can't wait for you to have your copy.
Yeah. I'm tired of trying to ask about it and then being like, don't tell me.
That's it for this week's Darkslinger Mafia podcast. Tune in next week to hear another exciting installment. You can find us on Facebook. We have fan pages for Darkslinger Comics, Ghost Assassin, El Bovine Muerte, and Chronicles von Helsing. Google+, Twitter, Tumblr. On Tumblr, I have pages for both Darkslinger Comics and El Bovine Muerte. Instagram, and LinkedIn. I'm Madam Watson.
And Elias Spainhower.
Thank you for listening.